In today's episode, we discuss a trio of coasters that brought big screen action to regional parks, at least for a little while. Welcome to Airtime Traveler. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Roller Coaster History Podcast. You are listening to Airtime Traveler. My name is Nathan Grace, and as always, I'm joined by my wife and lovely co-host.
Hey, I'm Haley Grace.
And thank you for tuning into this episode of the podcast. This is episode 3 of season 4, right? Am I already losing track? That's bad. I'm not good at counting.
It's been a day.
It has been a day.
It's been a really
true.
long day. Like, nothing bad happened. It was just long.
It's been a week.
It's Tuesday.
No, like the past 7 days. Not like from Sunday to when we're recording this. Like the past 7 days from when we're recording this.
But again, it's not been bad. It's just been long.
Yeah.
We went and saw the new Marvel movie, and
that was very good.
it was fantastic.
It was very good. If you're a Marvel fan, then I'm sure you agree. Non-Marvel fans, I don't know.
Be a Marvel fan.
It's easier said than done, I think, to just be saying be a Marvel fan.
No,
but
no, it's not.
No.
You just need to be. Sorry, we're a little bit partial.
I've been a Marvel fan for a long time. Like, I started watching the movies they started coming out when I was in high school, so I think that's like prime. That's like a prime time to get into it, I think, is when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
And so, I started watching them. I think Avengers came out in... what year did Avengers come out? 2013? I might be completely wrong about that.
Asking a lot from me.
2012. I was close. So 2012, so I would have been 16. So that's like, I feel like that's prime time to like get into a new interest, is when you're in high school. So
yeah.
And then I've just been a big fan of it ever since. So we always go to opening night of the new Marvel movies. So anyway,
it was great.
Stuff.
It was
a good one. That was a good one. Really like that one. One of the better ones since Endgame, I would have to say. So
yeah, we even said it was the best.
Yeah, I have a hard time deciding if that one. I was thinking about it. Out of all the ones since Endgame, it's definitely, I think, in my top 2. I can't decide between that one and Shang-Chi is the other one that I'm like... Ooh.
That one was really good, too. But I think this one was just a touch better.
So, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is in that conversation, too. And Spider-Man No Way Home also is very good. So,
yeah.
There's a few that have been, like, really, really good.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty biased. Like, even the ones that people haven't liked, I've generally liked. There's only a few MCU movies and TV shows that I actively dislike. Like, there's very few that I do not like. So,
yeah, me too.
So, but yeah. Anyway,
moving on.
Very off topic. Yeah.
Coasters.
Welcome to the MCU podcast.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sure there's a million of those.
I'm sure there is. Yeah.
But there's only one roller coaster history podcast. Oh, well, if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Here at Airtime Traveler, we obviously do roller coaster history, but rather than talk about the history of roller coasters in general, we like to take one roller coaster and do a deep dive into that roller coaster's history, how it was developed, how it came to be, all of that. And so I'm a roller coaster enthusiast and have been for a long time now. And my wife, Haley, is a member of the GP, or the general public. And so she's kind of less into the roller coaster community. So I'm here to do the research and to tell the stories, and she's here to help make me more interesting. And so
something like that.
I think it's effective. So
I mean, we have enough listeners. I guess you can call it effective.
I think so. There is one piece of news I wanted to talk about this week that I don't know if Haley saw or not, but I purposely have been not discussing it with her so that we could discuss it on the podcast.
Okay.
But I do know that she does follow a couple coaster enthusiast pages on Facebook, so she may have seen it. But the big news that happened last week, as we're recording this, was that Six Flags announced that they are closing one of their parks. You did see that?
Yep.
Okay, so Six Flags America is being closed at the end of 2025, which is pretty crazy.
It's like a bigger park, isn't it? Too?
I mean, it's definitely, but like if you're looking at all of Six Flags parks, and not including Cedar Fair in this, but if you're just looking at like legacy, the OG Six Flags. If you're looking at legacy Six Flags parks, it was definitely towards the bottom of their priority list. To the point that I put together a list probably a month or two ago that I posted on our socials of like dividing all of Six Flags and Cedar Fair, the whole, the new Six Flags, dividing all of their parks into 4 categories of like not going anywhere, unlikely but still possible, could go either way, and then like parks that I felt pretty certain were going to be sold off or closed. And I have 4 parks that I put in that category, and Six Flags America was one of them. So I kind of called this actually when I put that together. And 2 reasons. One, like I said, it doesn't get a whole lot of attention from Six Flags. Look at this. Their last new roller coaster was 2014. And I'm pretty sure that coaster was a relocation. It was. So that coaster was relocated. And then I think 2012, I think this one was also relocated. And then 2001 was their last new roller coaster.
Wow.
Like, they haven't had a new roller coaster, minus, the 2 relocated coasters, haven't had a new roller coaster in over 20 years. So that kind of speaks volumes. And so that was kind of in the back of my mind. And then 2 other things kind of impacted this. One, it's not that far from King's Dominion, which used to be a competitor, but now is part of the same chain.
Right.
And Cedar Fair was investing heavily in King's Dominion. And even after the merger, we saw, them invest in King's Dominion by building a brand new roller coaster this year.
Right.
And so I think King's Dominion is very clearly the superior of the 2 parks. And this is also, this park also, they own like 500 acres at Six Flags America. Is the actual land that they own is 500 acres. A lot of that is undeveloped. Like, the actual park is not that big. It's probably 100 to 200 acres, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like, the value of the property is just a lot too. So it's kind of in like the Baltimore area.
Yeah.
Kind of close to DC. So, I mean, that's expensive real estate in that area. So
you can sell it off for a pretty penny.
Exactly. So kind of a combination of all those things.
How cool would it be to say, I live on what used to be a amusement park? That would be so
happens.
cool.
It happens. So.
I know it does, but it'd be cool to be like, yeah, this is where this so-and-so roller coaster used to sit.
Yeah. So
I think that'd be cool.
I mean, pretty crazy. So that's Six Flags America. It's doesn't have long.
Hasta la vista.
Yep, it says their last day is November 2nd, 2025.
I am glad, though, that they're, like, giving us plenty of time. Like, people plenty of time to go, though.
Yeah, the timing of the announcement, like, maybe is a little late. Not obviously. Like, I mean, there's been parks that close after like Geauga Lake, people didn't get to go back. Like it just closed during the the off season, and people never got a chance to go back. So this is much preferable to that, obviously. So, but California's Great America, they announced that park was closing like 2 years ago, and it's still open right now. Like it's not like it's still up in the air when the actual closing is going to happen. So people have had lots of time to get to California's Great America before that park closes. But anyway, so the other parks that I said could be in trouble were Michigan's Adventure and Six Flags Great Escape. So we'll have to see about those, what they end up doing with those.
It'll be interesting.
So I don't think this will be the last park that gets closed or sold off. I do think Six Flags is such a large chain at this point that they're probably looking at options for a lot of their parks.
Yeah.
Now, I do think a good 60% of their parks, they probably are completely safe. They may have looked into what the value of the real estate might be, but just out of curiosity or whatever, I would guess a good portion of their parks are probably safe. But there's also a significant amount that they're probably looking at all the options. So,
right.
California's Great America was, I mean, they built a new roller coaster in, I think, 2018. And then they announced 2021 that it was closing. So, I mean, they were adding stuff pretty close up until when they made the announcement. It's just the property value. I mean, it's right across the street from where the 49ers play. So, I mean, that property is insanely expensive.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'm sure they got a pretty penny for, the price that they, sold that park for. And clearly it was worth more to them than however much the ticket sales were for the park. So that at the end of the day, that's the sad part about the amusement industry is it is an industry, it is a business. And, at the end of the day, the board of directors wants to make the shareholders happy. And the way to make the shareholders happy is to put money in their pockets. And sometimes it's better to sell a park than to sell tickets to a park. So.
Right.
So, I might talk more about Six Flags America later. More specifically, if any of these roller coasters here are going to get relocated, and if so, where. So, they've got Superman Ride of Steel is probably their most notable coaster. It's an Intamin hyper coaster. It was built in 2000. It's the same model as Millennium Force. Just it's 200 feet tall instead of 300 feet tall. So, I mean, it's a pretty big coaster. Batwing is the last remaining Vekoma flying coaster in the country. So, that's kind of a notable coaster model that might be extinct at the end of the year.
Right.
So there was 2 of them not that long ago, but Carowinds just tore theirs down like a few months ago, and now this one is going to be closing too. So may not have any more Vekoma flying coasters in the near future. But
have you been on one?
Because Nighthawk was closed when I went to Carowinds. And Firehawk was gone by the time we went to Kings Island, and so I just keep missing them every time. So it's kind of tempting because I'm like, oh man, like that's 9 credits that may or may not end up at another park. So
I mean, that's only in Maryland. That's not.
I mean, DC is not that far. It is tempting. It is tempting. Anyway. They have a wooden coaster built in 1986. I'm sure that's gone. It's really hard to relocate wooden coasters. So
right,
their 2 wooden coasters, I'm sure, are both gone. Joker's Jinx is another interesting one. It's the same coaster as Flight of Fear. It's just outside instead of inside. So that seems really complicated to relocate, but it's not impossible. So. There's a couple coasters in the chain that could use, or a couple parks in the chain that could use a good launch coaster. So, anyway, sad news. That's always very sad when a park closes. But It happens, unfortunately.
It does,
so,
yeah.
Well, let's talk about our topic for today's episode. So, get out of the sad news of closing a park. Let's talk about some coaster history. It is sad.
Moving on.
Especially for people. I mean, coaster enthusiasts in the DC area. I mean, that sucks. So there's a lot of season pass holders that have been going to this park for forever.
Probably.
Since it opened in '82, and won't be able to go there anymore. So feel for those of you that may be listening that are Six Flags America. That's your home park. That's not a fun thing for sure. So, well, today I teased this a little bit last week. I said that we were going to be talking about a coaster that is at Kings Island and Kings Dominion, which left between the coasters we've already talked about, left two options if you've done your homework and been listening for a while. That either meant we were doing Woodstock Express or Backlot Stunt Coaster. And we are doing Backlot Stunt Coaster. So
What, you didn't want to do Woodstock Express?
Woodstock Express.
Whatever.
So. Woodstock Express, I'm trying to figure out how I would do that one because there are 4 coasters that have that name and 3 of them are the same and one of them is completely different. So I'm like, do I include that one or do I not? Like, the Cedar Point version is very different from the other 3. But yes, we're doing Backlot Stunt Coaster, which
it's a good one.
I actually, when I said that
Both
this
are
was,
good ones, but yes,
I said that it was Kings Island and Kings Dominion. Technically, this is actually a coaster that's at 3 parks, and I didn't even clock that when I was teasing our episode a couple weeks ago. But it's also at Canada's Wonderland is the 3rd park, and so there's somebody that actually commented on our last episode saying to do a Canada's Wonderland episode. And I was going to tell them, and so if you're listening, this is what I was going to say, that like we try to do parks that we've actually been to in all of our episodes.
It's true.
And we haven't,
if we get our visas fast enough, we can go to Canada.
Maybe. So we haven't been to Canada's Wonderland, which is why we haven't done any episodes for that park. But I guess technically we are this week because we're doing Backlot Stunt Coaster. And so I decided to throw it in, even though we haven't been to Canada's Wonderland. We've been on a clone of the Canada's Wonderland coaster, so I was like, I'm fine talking about that since we've been on a clone of that one.
True.
And technically, we've only been on one of the 3.
That's right.
Yeah,
we felt like we rode it already, so we didn't.
That's not why we didn't do the one at Kings Island. I don't know if you remember. So we did the Kings Dominion, Kings Island. We did back to back. In the same trip.
Yeah.
We went to Kings Dominion first, and we rode it at Kings Dominion a couple times, I think.
It was fun, yeah.
And Kings Island, we were there for a few days. And we had like prioritized the big coasters and prioritized the ones that, weren't the same as coasters at Kings Dominion. So like, I don't think you did Flight of Fear at Kings Island. Kings Island was also tricky because we had our son with us, and so we were doing parent swap, and so we were definitely prioritizing stuff that was unique to Kings Island rather than something that was the same at both parks. So that's why you didn't do Backlot Stunt Coaster, I think, is because it just, the timing didn't work out. But I didn't do it either, which I would have because, I'm trying to get all my credits at the park. But I was in line for it when you called me from the hotel because you got so sick.
It was like top 3 sickest I've ever been. It was awful.
Like you told me, I don't remember if you passed out or almost passed out, but
I was with Parker too.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think I did pass out.
I can't remember for sure, but you may have. So
I think I did in the bathroom, and like, oh, it was awful.
Yeah.
It was awful, and I was scared because it was like I was with Parker. I didn't know what to do.
Well, because you had driven with me to the park, and we had been at the park, the 3 of us, for a while, and then you took him back to take a nap, I think, and so I stayed at the park. So that's why I was like, oh, I'll check Backlot Stunt Coaster off while I'm here because Haley was kind of doesn't necessarily care about getting credits like I do. And then that's when you called me. And so I had to Uber back to our hotel. And then I do think we ended up going back to the park that night after you felt better. But never did get my Backlot Stunt Coaster credit while I was there, though. So technically, I've only been on one of the 3.
Yeah. That was crazy.
So, yeah.
I still don't know why I got so sick.
I have no idea.
But it was bad.
Yeah. Just dehydrated, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows? So. But it was gnarly. And like what was weird is we did go back that night because I felt better. So it wasn't like even like a true sickness. It was just either something I ate or some dehydration. Who knows? It was awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Good times.
Sorry, honey.
Oh, you know what? I actually remember we took you to urgent care.
That's right.
And they did a test. And you remember we got the test results 2 days later. It was COVID, remember?
Oh, yeah.
That was the first time we got COVID. And we had no idea. Because, like, the last day we were at the park, I started feeling really lightheaded and like, we went to the parking lot and you actually drove, like, most of that day, which usually you're the, passenger princess or whatever.
I am a passenger princess. No shame.
But you drove that day because I felt terrible like 2 days later, and then we found out that it was COVID. So that's probably what it was then. That's probably why you passed out, but we just didn't realize it at the time. So fun stuff. So this has been a real lighthearted intro to this episode, talking about closed amusement parks and COVID.
Oh, jeez. All right, moving on.
Let's
try and forget that ever happened.
Backlot Stunt Coaster at Kings Island, Kings Dominion, and Canada's Wonderland. 2 of them opened in 2005, and 1 of them opened in 2006. Cost, I honestly have...
Pause really fast. My chair is really squeaky, so I'm just gonna...
Both of our chairs are really squeaky. It showed up in the recording multiple times now.
So I'm apologizing now.
You gotta get some WD-40 in here.
If you guys hear some squeaking, it's my chair. Okay, continue.
So the cost is really, I have no idea, because one article I read said $2.5 million, and another one I read said $15 million. I'm like, what? That's a huge gap. I'm like, maybe they spent $15 million for all 3? I don't know. That's a big jump. 1,960 feet long, only 45 feet tall, with a top speed of 40 miles per hour. Average 2024 wait time, Kings Islands was 35 minutes, Kings Dominions was 20 minutes, and Canada's Wonderland was 34 minutes. So, not bad. Decent wait times, which makes sense. The capacity isn't super great, and it's also a family coaster, so it kind of appeals to a wider audience. So, in the CoasterBot rankings, Canada's Wonderland slightly outranks Kings Islands and then Kings Dominions. So that's kind of it goes Canada's Wonderland, Kings Island, then Kings Dominion in that order, but they're all basically the same.
Right.
They come in at around 275 in the country, and I have included Canada in that as well, which is I usually don't, but for today's purposes, I have, obviously. They rank below coasters such as Fire Chaser Express at Dollywood, Dark Coaster at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and Kentucky Flyer at Kentucky Kingdom. They rank above coasters such as Arctic Rescue at SeaWorld San Diego, Slinky Dog Dash at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and Penguin Trek at SeaWorld Orlando. They tend to rank towards the bottom of the lineup at their respective parks. Kings Islands is at number 9, behind the Racer and ahead of Adventure Express. Kings Dominions comes in at number 7, behind Racer 75 and ahead of Toombili. Canada's Wonderland is the exception, though, because it comes in at number 5, behind Vortex and ahead of Wonder Mountain's Guardian. So it's a little bit higher in their lineup. So, review of the name.
I like it.
Yeah, it's cute. It does have a. It's cute.
Oh gosh, I'm doing it again.
Dang
it! Guys, I'm so sorry.
Goodness. Haley just thinks all coaster names are cute.
It's cute. Oh jeez, I need to put a sock in my mouth.
That's so good. Yeah, it's
I'm really embarrassed.
You don't need to be embarrassed. I love it. It's definitely.
You love it, but like other people are like, that idiot.
Oh, they're not thinking that. If they are, they can stop listening because that's rude.
Oh, jeez! Don't swear people to stop listening to us. You can have your own opinion.
I do think it's a good name. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's not. I mean, there's definitely worse coasters
That's
with
true.
worse mouthfuls of a name.
That's very true.
Yeah. The logo, it's okay.
I think it could have been better.
Yeah, it definitely is not on the same level as modern Cedar Fair logos.
Right.
Like I don't know. Is this I think this is supposed to be a Treadmark mixed with
tire track?
film, I think is what's going on in the back here. Like a tire track that turns into film, I think is what they're going for.
That's very strange.
Yeah, and then like this yellow square here is off center from all the rest of them. Like I'm not exactly sure what's happening. So
yeah,
but it's not bad. I've definitely seen worse.
I just feel like the
it's...
graphic on the car too. Like there's so many.
This
things.
font is very basic. It's
all
fine.
right. It's all right.
I give it a B-.
Nah, I was gonna say a C. It's
C+.
It's like middle ground for me.
Review of the paint scheme. The paint scheme's not much, but there is kind of a purpose to why they. It's just painted gray, but that's kind of that's the point behind it. We'll kind of get into that later. Review of the trains. They're okay.
Okay.
It's kind of the same as the logo. It's
alright.
Yeah. There is a reasoning for why the trains look the way they do. We'll talk about it later in the episode. That it makes sense why they're not very interesting trains to look at. There's kind of a reason for that we'll get into later, but they're okay. Foreshadowing. You'll have to listen to find out. Here's the parks description. I'm pretty sure all three parks have the same description. So this is, I know King's Dominions and King's Islands was the same. I don't know if I looked at Canada's Wonderland, but this comes from King's Dominions specifically. Have you ever watched an absolutely insane chase scene in a movie and thought, hey, I could totally be a stunt car driver like that? At King's Dominion, we've got your chance of a lifetime. Our Backlot Stunt Coaster ride is a state-of-the-art linear induction motor launch coaster that delivers a no-holds-barred high-speed experience like none you've ever experienced before.
Wow.
Yeah. Non-stop action from start to finish is the tagline. So, there you go.
All right.
Customer reviews. Despite having 3 coasters to pull from, it was hard to find customer reviews.
Really?
Because Canada's Wonderland had like 40-something reviews, King's Islands had like 20-something, and King's Dominions had none.
What?
Like, it was not on Google at all.
I wonder if people were getting them like confused with each other. Like when they looked it up on Google.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It was weird. In order to leave a review for something, it has to be added to Google Maps. And so, for some reason, no one has added King's Dominions on Google Maps as like a location. And so, like, you can't leave a review for it. So,
interesting.
Yeah, I could have pulled reviews from like Yelp or like other things, but I didn't care to. So these are just from Canada's Wonderland and from King's Island, but they're all the same, so you kind of get the gist. The average rating for the coasters was 4.3 out of 5, so not terrible, not great. Here's a 5-star review. The wait time might be long and the ride might be super short, but the ride is just terribly awesome. So much fast-paced action in here. I really like the beginning. Heads back, all clear. And then, whoosh!
I love that.
Whoosh!
I love that. Like, that one's my favorite one we've ever read.
Oh, wow.
It's very descriptive.
Wow.
I like that one. Looked like ChatGPT wrote it.
You need like do you want reviews that have sound effects built in? Is that what you?
Yeah.
Is that what you want?
That'd be sweet.
Go up the lift hill. Click, 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 click. Here's another 5-star one. I was really looking forward to this ride, but had no idea what to expect. This ride really surprised me. From the outside, it looks like a little kiddie coaster with a cute theme.
See, they called it cute
They
too.
did kill it cute too. Once hopping on it, it's a cute coaster. That's twice.
Hey, we can be friends.
That catapults you into action and sends you soaring. The helixes have quite a bit of force to them, and you feel like you're hanging out of your seat. The effects on this are cheesy in the best way, and the fire makes it memorable, as does the tunnel that throws you into complete darkness. The first time I rode this was at night, and I must say this is even better when it's dark out. This ride doesn't usually get a long line, and even if the queue is backed up, it moves pretty fast. Definitely don't pass this one up.
They called it cute.
They did call it cute, so
I appreciate it.
I will say, even though the trains don't have a ton of capacity, they are able to run 3 trains at a time because it has a separate loading and unloading station, so that does kind of help with the flow of the line. So let's look at some bad reviews now, because these ones are funnier. 1 star, this is a fast track to blacking out or getting whiplash. I've been on twice, and the first time I almost threw up. The second time I started seeing black dots and felt so sick afterwards. I know it's supposed to be fast, but it just feels like a crime to my brain to willingly get on a ride that fast, lol. I think younger kids would maybe appreciate it a little more. I like the fact that they went on it and hated it, so then they went on it again. I was like, that must have been a fluke.
Yeah, let me try it again.
Try it again. 3 stars, this is a really fun roller coaster for families, but be sure to keep your head back during the launch, because the guy beside me thought it was painful, but I was fine. So he wrote 3 stars because the guy next to him had a bad time. What is that about? He's like, oh, I gave it 5 stars and this guy gave it 1, so I guess it's actually a 3-star.
3.
4 stars. I don't have this complaint with any of the other 100 plus coasters I've ridden. But what is up with that fire? You're stuck in that spot for a good 30 seconds and it is uncomfortably hot, as if it's the Backlot sauna coaster. Backlot sauna coaster. That's gonna...
Alright.
I think we should fund that. I think that's...
Gross. I don't think I like that.
Like halfway through,
Cute.
There's just like a steam room, and you just sitting there for a few minutes. It's like that part in Test Track where you go through like the different elements. There was like the.
Could you imagine?
They don't do it anymore, but.
There?
Well, he says 30 seconds, which makes me think they did get stuck there. It's only you're only supposed to be stopped in that spot for like
a second,
10 seconds or so. 1 star, I wouldn't recommend this roller coaster to anyone. I love roller coasters, but this was one of the worst I've ever rode.
Oh, okay.
The seats were small and they tightened the seatbelt too tight. It's slow, and when you're at the top where it has the flames, it feels like you're melting. There's another person complaining about the fire. And it's quite jerky. After I rode this ride, I felt sick. Okay. 1 star, terrible ride. It is rough and it ruins the Rivertown theming. It's kind of interesting that it is kind of close by to where Diamondback is and kind of Mystic Timbers. It's not like, I guess it's probably closer to the Beast. Yeah, well, a little bit further up from where Mystic Timbers is, but I don't feel like it ruins the theming because it's closer to the middle of the park where like the Eiffel Tower is. So.
All of those parks didn't have the best theming though. Like I didn't really see any kind of theming going on.
I mean, Rivertown's got a little bit, but like the one that definitely sticks out, we'll talk about it in the episode, is King's Dominions, because it's like right next to Jungle Expedition.
Yeah, that one's weird.
And then last one here, 4 stars. It's a relatively short coaster that packs some quick twisties. I like it. Quick twisties.
I love it. I'm gonna start saying that now.
I want a shirt that says, this coaster packs some quick twisties.
I'm totally making you one. Totally making you one. Everybody will compliment it, just like your powder cake shirt.
Which I'm currently wearing right now.
Yes! So, powder cake shirt.
Powder cake shirt. That is our customer reviews and our introduction to Backlot Stunt Coaster. Let's talk about the history. So let's hop into our time machine here and pull down on the lap bar. Keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the time machine at all times. And let's go back to 1996. Okay, let's do a brief recap from episode 33, which
I don't even remember what I ate for breakfast this morning.
What? You don't remember what episode 33 is?
No.
I wouldn't have either. I don't have the numbers memorized for... I know some of them, like I know 50 was Twisted Timbers. I know 25 was Millennium Force. Wait. Actually, maybe not. Maybe I don't know.
Don't say that. People are going to go and quote
Actually, I think 30 was Millennium Force. I don't remember what 25 was now. See, I'm just proving I don't know either.
Okay.
Episode 33 was Flight of Fear, which I can't remember if that was our last Kings Island and Kings Dominion episode, but it was fairly recent. I think that was season 2. We're just going to do not a lot from Flight of Fear, but it is pertinent to today's topic. So, Premier Rides was founded in 1995, created a revolutionary new coaster launch, which was the linear induction motor, or the LIM motor. So, LIM tech uses magnetic fields to launch trains smoothly and rapidly, whereas launch coasters up until that point had used cables. And some still do, but magnetic launches is kind of the way that all launch coasters work nowadays. So this was a big deal in 1996. And so the very first coasters to feature these LIM launches were Flight of Fear, which opened... It was 2 identical launch coasters that opened in the summer of 1996 at Kings Dominion and Kings Island. So not only were these the first LIM launched roller coasters, but also the first completely indoor roller coasters to feature inversions. So it was a big deal in 1996, and these coasters spurred a lot of other coasters in the industry. In 1998, Six Flags would open a trio of launch coasters that were also built by Premier Rides. So they opened the Mr. Freeze coasters at Six Flags Over Texas and Six Flags St. Louis. And then they also opened Batman and Robin the Chiller at Six Flags Great Adventure. This would also be followed by 2 outdoor versions of Flight of Fear. One of them being the one we talked about earlier, Joker's Jinx at Six Flags America. The other being Poltergeist at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. And then Disney and Universal took note of Flight of Fear too, because they would eventually develop indoor launch coasters of their own. So Disney would eventually open Rock and Roller Coaster, which is very similar to Flight of Fear. The only difference being they hired Vekoma to construct Rock and Roller Coaster rather than Premier Rides. But the concept is the same, very similar in the way that they're designed. And then Premier Rides would actually be hired by Universal to build Revenge of the Mummy at Universal Studios Hollywood and Florida, which are not quite the same as Flight of Fear, but they are indoor launch coasters built by Premier Rides. Those opened in 2004. So over the 8 years after Flight of Fear, we see a bunch of these launch coasters that are being built by Premier Rides. So it was a big deal. Flight of Fear's success catapulted Premier Rides into the forefront of the amusement industry, especially when it comes to launch coasters. Now, they had issues with reliability. Some of these coasters aren't even open anymore because of that. And but they're generally nowadays considered a decent manufacturer to work with. Like they've had their issues,
right.
But so is Intamin. Like there's every
company has problems.
It's true. Like every manufacturer's had coasters that don't quite hit the mark, and so some more so than others. But
right.
It happens. So Premier Rides is still building new coasters. In fact, one of the coasters opening this year, Alpine Fury at Canada's Wonderland, is probably top 3 new roller coaster opening this year, according to some people. Well, probably according to a lot of people. It's just a big coaster that they're opening. So they still are doing some really good stuff at Premier Rides. So the same year that The Mummy was set to open at the Universal Parks, Paramount was in discussions with the Premier Rides to bring a new launch coaster to several of their parks. So this is 2004. This is pre-Cedar Fair buying the park. So this is still Paramount's chain of parks, which is, completely separate from Six Flags and Cedar Fair at this point. So this was Paramount's Kings Island and Paramount's Kings Dominion, and also included Carowinds, Canada's Wonderland, and California's Great America. So the parks are full of Paramount IPs like Nickelodeon and Top Gun and Scooby-Doo and all those different things.
I would have liked going to that.
It's kind of interesting, right? Like, I kind of wish I would have gotten to visit one of those parks during the Paramount era. Definitely a different time. I wouldn't have ridden anything because I was still terrified of coasters at that age. But so in 2003, just prior to this, Paramount released the film The Italian Job. Now, have you seen this movie? No. I haven't either. Like, I'm very familiar with it, and I've actually I know kind of the whole storyline, and I've familiarized myself with it specifically for this episode. Probably gonna get people coming as like, what, you've never seen The Italian Job?
Nope.
But
I haven't lived a life apparently, so.
It doesn't surprise me that you haven't seen it. I know my parents really like it because back when we had DVDs, we had the DVD for this movie.
Oh, wow, really?
So, yeah, I remember that. I don't know why I remember that, but I remember that. And so I know my parents enjoy this movie, but I have never actually seen it myself. So, so with a budget, I guess I should talk about, is a remake of so it's actually a remake of a 1969 movie, also called The Italian Job, which is considered like a classic movie by a lot of people, starring Michael Caine. The remake would star Mark Wahlberg, Charlize Theron, Edward Norton, and Jason Statham, among others. It had a budget of $60 million, grossed over $176 million, so fairly decent. It was actually Paramount's most successful film of 2003. So general reception of the film was good, though it bears little resemblance to the original movie. Like, that you can definitely see that they based it off of the original,
right?
But only 18 minutes of the film actually takes place in Italy, which is really funny. So.
Why? Okay.
So in the original movie, like a majority of the movie takes place in Italy. Like the actual, so it's a heist movie. So I
could see that from the cover.
Yeah, makes sense. And so in the original, the heist takes place in Italy, but in the remake, the heist actually happens in Los Angeles. So, I mean...
Makes total sense.
I know, right? So, but they are in Italy for part of the movie, so...
Okay.
One thing is the same in the movie, and that is the minis. So both films heavily feature 3 Mini Coopers, which I'm sure you're familiar with what car that is.
Yep.
If not, it's this one.
Yep.
Right on the poster for the movie here. Now, the movie was kind of a big promotional stunt between Paramount and BMW. They kind of worked together on this because BMW had just relaunched the Mini brand in 2001. So I guess like it was a brand, back in the 60s and 70s, and then it kind of died out. And then BMW revived it back in 2001. And so the movie, they kind of worked with Paramount on, heavily, featuring these Mini Coopers, which is the same thing that they did in the 1969 movie. So the Mini Coopers are actually, like they're integral to the plan in the original movie, as they were the only cars small enough to navigate the narrow alleys in Italy to like make their escape. Like that was kind of the whole gist of the movie, is that they were going to use a small car to make their getaway so that they could drive where other cars couldn't.
They don't seem like they're fast though.
Well, that's the thing, is like they're not fast cars, but they were nimble. Like that was kind of the whole thing, is like you could get places where other cars couldn't because they were smaller than other cars.
All right.
So that was kind of the whole point of the heist in the original, and so they kind of did the same thing for the remake. And so the movie heavily features old and new Mini Coopers. Like, I think they drive in on an old one in the early part of the movie, and then they use the new ones in the final chase scene at the climax of the movie at the end.
Right.
So the Mini Coopers would navigate narrow alleys, a sewer system, and even down a subway stairwell. So there's some cool little stunts they did for the movie for sure. So a little over a year after the movie's release, on August 12th, 2004, Paramount Parks announced that 2 new roller coasters would be coming to Kings Island in Canada's Wonderland. These coasters would be called the Italian Job Stunt Track. So Paramount would once again hire Premier Rides to build these LIM-launched coasters, but they were more family-friendly than some of the other stuff that they had done. So the attractions would specifically be themed to the final chase sequence from the movie, and the trains even feature 3 Mini Cooper-styled cars in blue, white, and red, just like, so you can see they had 3 Mini Coopers in the movie that were distinctly blue, red, and white.
Right.
Mostly so you could tell who was in like which car.
Which
just kind of makes sense. So
that,
yeah.
Yes.
So, but then they designed the trains to do the exact same thing, which is a cool little detail. I like that. So the ride would also feature special effects and onboard audio to immerse riders into the movie setting. Kings Island's coaster would be replacing their Antique Cars attraction, which was scheduled to close just a few days after the announcement. So.
Okay.
So here's the promotional images from the actual announcement. So
interesting.
It's funny how much we've improved the promotional art over the last 20 years. Like, the quality of these is just very low quality.
Interesting.
Right, and you're like
explosions.
But in 2004, this was probably great promo artwork, and just over the last 20 years, we've gotten way better. I know, like, it's not a drawing. We actually put this together in a 3D modeling program.
That's awesome. Yep, I totally get that.
Yeah,
I remember thinking that too. Like,
I know, right?
Look how cool that is. It's not flat.
Well. So construction for both coasters would begin shortly thereafter. I actually couldn't find any pictures of the construction. Like, I don't know why. I just couldn't find no construction photos.
That's not normal.
Now, during the construction process, the decision was made to switch the track color to gray. As you noticed earlier, all 3 of them are gray in color, and you can see very clearly in these promo images that the color was yellow originally. That decision was made to help it blend in with the surrounding theming. Okay. Basically, put less emphasis on the track and more emphasis on everything else going on around the rider. And so it's close in color to a road, so to speak. So the trains were designed by S&S, who worked closely with one of BMW's chief designers. So the cars were actually scaled to 3/4 size and then made as realistic as possible to the Mini Cooper S model seen in the movie. So here's an actual Mini Cooper S from 2004. And so, or I guess 2003 because of the movie. And so then here's kind of how they scaled that down into a little... Okay, let's be honest. It actually makes sense here. They are very cute. These little Mini Coopers they put together.
I was trying to catch myself.
I will concur with you on that one.
Cute.
They are cute.
Thank you.
It's impressive though the detail that they put into this. So I will say, yeah. I looked side by side. Like, you got your hood vent is there. The white stripes.
Yeah.
Even these little headlights that are on the front here.
Curve on the hood of the car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep.
Cute.
Even though in the door handle matches, that's a detail they don't need to put a door handle on there, but they did.
They did, yeah.
So, and there's some other cool things too. So the headlights actually worked, and the tail lights worked as well.
Really?
Had working headlights and tail lights. And check this out. They actually had functioning doors on the train. You would actually sit down and then pull the door closed. Which
I kind of like that.
I can't think of other coasters that have that. There's other rides, like teacups have like actual working doors on them, and like
Right.
other flat rides do, but I can't think of a coaster that
Coaster.
has functioning doors on it. I'm sure there is, but I can't, not off the top of my head. I
Not
can't
ones
think
that
of
we've
that.
been
So
on.
yeah, so
I was even thinking like maybe like Idlewild, but even then I'm like, no,
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't think so. So very cool little
almost-
trains they put together.
No, I don't think so. I was gonna say maybe the Wild Mouse at Idlewild, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think so.
I'm not sure. So the onboard audio would also be used to simulate the sound of the car. Even had speakers under the seat to simulate the rumble of of an engine.
That's cool.
And then like it actually played engine sounds as you would go throughout the drive or throughout the track. What all of this is quite impressive technology for a regional park at the time. In fact, these coasters, I didn't know this until I did this episode, but they were the first non-Disney or Universal roller coasters to feature onboard audio.
That's cool.
So like onboard audio was only ever on Disney or Universal coasters until 2004. Nowadays, you can find it
common.
all over the place in
Yeah.
regional parks. Not as much as you do at the Disney or Universal parks, but this was the first time that ever happened at a regional park. So it was a big deal. Now, the premise for the ride was not that you were in the movie, but rather that you were a stunt driver hired to drive the cars for the movie. So as such, the beginning of the ride would start with the director yelling action. And then like, as you would pull into the final breaks, he would say like, cut, like that was a great take, or like, something like that. And so
Yeah.
like the whole premise was like, you are a stunt driver.
Which is kind
So,
of cool.
Yeah, it's
I like
a
the
different take on just throwing you into the movie, which is
Right.
the typical way you would do a themed attraction like this. So there's
it
a little
was very
different
creative.
take on that.
Yeah,
So
I like it.
Canada's Wonderland would open their Italian Job stunt track first. It was the first one to open. That's this top left one here. Opened on May 1st, 2005. Just a few weeks later, on May 20th, 2005, would be Kings Island's version. The Italian Job stunt track would open at Kings Island. At the opening for Kings Islands, this I don't have the video, so if you want to go watch it, you should definitely go and see if you can find it. There's a video of the opening ceremony for the one at Kings Island.
Yeah.
And two stunt track drivers drive up two Mini Coopers out in front of the ride. And then they jump out and they open the trunk to one of them. And the park's director of communications was in the back. And he started throwing fake money. It's like,
What the?
like, it's just very strange.
That's cheesy.
It's very cheesy.
That's ridiculous.
It's very 2005. So it was pretty
What's
great.
the best idea you can come up with? I know! We're gonna drive
Like
not one, but two Mini Coopers up, and I'm gonna sit in the trunk. And when
For
I open it, it's not gonna be real cash. It'll be fake cash.
Like, I think the sitting in the car and like opening the trunk and you getting out, I'm like, okay, that's a little cheesy, but that's not bad.
The fake cash.
Throwing the fake money
Fake
is like
cash.
at least he didn't do the make it rain, but that wasn't really a thing yet in
Not yet.
2005.
I'm sure if it was,
If
it
it
was
had
gonna be a
opened.
thing. He would have done it.
Oh, that's so funny. So we'll get to the ride experience in a minute because I want to talk about King's Dominion's opening, and then we'll do the ride experience for all three of them because they're identical. So a few months later, on October 12th, 2005, so what is that? 5 months after these ones opened, King's Dominion would announce that they would also be getting their own Italian Job themed coaster. This one would be named the Italian Job Turbo Coaster. I could not find why it's a different name than the other two.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't. None.
I don't. Yeah, Turbo Coaster. Actually, I like that less. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So, I don't know what that decision was.
That sounds cheesy.
It does.
So,
It does.
It's
so.
not cute. That's cheesy.
So, I don't know if it was a park manager decision, like maybe Cedar Fair was, or I guess it would have been Paramount. So I don't know if Paramount was like, here's the options you can choose from, and the park manager chose a different one than the other parks. I don't know. So, King's Dominion's Turbo Coaster would open to the public on May 27th, 2006. So, all three of these coasters are identical in ride experience and continue to operate to this day. The ride experience was as follows. After boarding, riders inch out of the station before hitting the launch track and accelerating to 40 miles per hour in 3 seconds. The train then enters the parking garage, which consists of 2 upward helixes meant to simulate driving up through an actual parking garage. The train drops into a street section lined with street signs, shipping containers, and cop cars with their lights flashing. Swerving between the cars, the train ascends through an 88-degree overbank turn, followed by a dip and then a left bank turn into a drop down a set of subway stairs. Riders then ascend up a hill and stop at the entrance to a tunnel. A helicopter rises to the train's left and begins shooting simulated gunfire. The gunfire cracks pipes and barrels, spraying gasoline or water all around the train. The second round of gunfire ignites an explosion as riders dive into the tunnel, twisting and turning in the dark before smashing out of a billboard, landing in an LA aqueduct complete with a splashdown effect, and making a large left turn into the final brakes. Now, there is a video. I want to watch it, but it would be very boring for our listeners because there's not any like dialogue or anything. It's just music. And I don't actually know like what it was used for. So Kings Island posted this a couple of years ago. During their 50th anniversary, they would like occasionally post like archives of like some of their different rides just throughout the year of like their history, which is kind of cool. I like that they did that. But so they posted this video about well, it's not about the Italian Job stunt track, but it was like, well, I'll just kind of play it so that you can watch. I like this. The following preview has been approved for all audiences. Rated E for extremely exciting. Extreme family fun for everyone.
Oh, not cheesy.
This is such 2005.
This
like
whole episode is nothing but cheese.
It's very cheesy.
Cheesy.
That is the essence of 2005, though, for sure.
Yes. 100%.
So, but yeah, so this was like
little 10-year-old.
It feels like an announcement video the way that it's put together. Yeah, so it says like the Italian Job stunt track speeding into 2005, and so it does very much feel like an announcement video, but it's 3.5 minutes long, which is pretty long for an announcement. But what's cool is it shows the movie side by side with the coaster, and it's very clear like that the movie is really what inspired the actual layout of the coaster. Like the swerving between the cop cars is very, mimics that scene there where they're, swerving in and out of traffic. I mentioned earlier the dive into the set of subway stairs, like that is directly from the movie.
Which that's cool.
Yeah, so a lot of what they did with the actual layout is very much inspired from the actual film, which I really appreciate that. So I think you can see this after they come out of this turn here. I think is the dive down into the subway stairs, and you can see from the movie. Yeah, so just like very very clearly, taking that idea from the movie and using that to inspire the actual layout of the coaster.
That.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Creative.
Yeah,
that's
I
not
agree.
Cheesy.
Yeah, that is the least cheesy thing so far. So, and then even I'll show you this last piece here. So like when then like the helicopter firing at the cars, that actually happens in the movie. And then this at the very end, they come out of this sewer system and into this aqueduct with like the splashdown.
Right.
And that's
what happens.
That's the when you come out of the billboard right at the queue entrance. So
okay.
Yeah, so very very much inspired by the ride, all from beginning to end. It's very cool. Reception amongst coaster enthusiasts was mixed. While the ride was enjoyable, it definitely toes the line between thrill coaster and family coaster. Like, so just to kind of talk about our experience with the ride, obviously we only got to ride King's Dominions, as we mentioned earlier.
Sorry.
But, yeah. We rode it 2 times, and I remember the first time riding it thinking that it was more intense than I anticipated. Now, the only part that felt like super intense was just the launch and the upward helix directly following, like into the parking lot section. Once you get through that, the rest of it is pretty chill and, just kind of meanders through. Like, there's, some decent pops of airtime here and there, but it's pretty low key. But that initial launch into the helix actually has a bit of a punch to it. So
right.
Now the only other problem I had is we rode the second time we rode the King's Dominion one, we decided to try back row instead.
It was
I don't know if you remember what happened when we did back row. So when you come out of the whole,
didn't you slam down? And you hurt? Yeah.
It's very painful. When we came out of the drop, out of the billboard, and then like the pull up from that drop is pretty sharp. And so because we're in the back seat, or the back row, we got a lot of airtime coming off that hill. But then when we came down, like,
you slammed hard.
I slammed hard, and I'll just say it wasn't in a comfortable spot either. So
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I won't go into more detail, but it was.
Let your imagination take it.
There's not many coasters that have done that to me, and so I can't recommend the back row for a Backlot Stunt Coaster. So I think that's definitely a thing that other coaster enthusiasts have experienced. Is like the coaster's kind of a thrill coaster, but mostly a family coaster. It's kind of in the middle there. It's a little strange, but it's definitely still a ride that like you can go on over and over again and still have a good time. So it's
I appreciate.
Yeah, it's a fun ride.
Like, this is like there's rides that I'm like, I gotta wait a few minutes to go on again. And
this would be one like if they did ERT at the end of the night, you could ride it like 20 times in a row. It'd be no problem. Yeah, I agree. So that being said, despite the, whatever coaster enthusiasts feel about the ride experience, they were all in agreement that the theming and a regional park putting this much effort into the actual theming of a coaster was something that really hadn't been done before. And so they received, a lot of praise for their efforts on that front. So Flight of Fear had, great theming in the queue and the station, but the actual ride was just in the dark with some colored lights. This was the first time that a regional park had said, like, we're going to build this roller coaster and the actual layout of the ride is going to be like completely, focused on, the theming is going to affect the actual ride experience, which is pretty cool. So there was one cool effect that the engineers were trying to achieve. And in this video that we were watching, you can actually see what they wanted it to do. And it's during this little subway section here when they go down the stairs. The engineers wanted it to bump up and down like you were going downstairs. Like, even watch the POV here. They wanted it to go bump up and down as if you were going downstairs.
That would be hard, I feel like.
And it was, because they never figured out how to do it. So they were trying to figure out a way to make it happen, and they just never could find a way to pull it off.
I wonder if they could do it now, like with newer technology, because I feel like taking that technology from like Rise of the Resistance and putting it with,
or like even like Time Traveler or Cosmic Rewind, like they have the ability to put motors into the coaster that can like move the car around. So you can do that same thing, but instead of turning it, you move it up and down. You could totally do it nowadays. Now, would it be worth the price for a regional park to do that? But it's definitely something that is engineering wise definitely possible nowadays for sure. So but anyway, they did want to do that, so the thought was there at least. So it was pretty revolutionary to see a regional chain spend this much time and effort on, theming a roller coaster. It is cool. It's unfortunate that it didn't last long. Because in January... Thank you. Yeah.
No, I said it's cute.
Oh, it's cute.
I said it's cool. And cute.
Cute and cute.
You didn't react to it.
I thought you said thank you. I didn't catch what you had said. So.
Well, I mean,
it's
thank
cool
you too,
and
but
cute.
It's cool and cute.
And cute. It's both. And
both.
cheesy.
And cheesy. All of the above.
All of the above.
Who knew a coaster could be all three
I
things?
know. Unfortunately, it didn't last long. Because in January of 2006, before King's Dominion's coaster even opened, CBS announced that it was selling off the Paramount Parks division of the company, which ultimately led to Cedar Fair purchasing these 5 parks on June 30th of that year, just a month after Turbo Coaster opened at King's Dominion. And as part of this acquisition, Cedar Fair would no longer have access to Paramount's IPs, meaning that the highly themed Italian Job stunt coasters would now need a retheme just a year, or for King's Dominion, a month after opening.
Sorry.
The timing is just
been really awful. Could you imagine being like, the workers being
crazy? Like all
seriously?
all this work that Paramount did to theme these coasters, and all the engineering that went into it, and the designing the trains, and all these little tidbits that they did to make these just an immersive experience. And in the background, CBS probably knew all along that they were getting ready to sell off the parks.
Annoying. I would have been
crazy. So
smack down.
That's again, as we discussed earlier, that's the business side of things taking over the amusement side of things, right? So the coasters would continue to use the Italian Job theme until the end of the 2007 season, as was allowed under their agreement with Paramount. So they did get to, I guess that's 3 seasons of Italian Job for King's Island and Canada's Wonderland, and 2 seasons of Italian Job for King's Dominion. So there were a few years that people got to experience those before the change happened, but definitely not as long as they would have hoped. So the Italian Job coasters were all renamed, you guessed it, Backlot Stunt Coaster. Still themed to being a stunt driver on a movie set, but all mentions of the Italian Job had to be removed. Basically, everything is just generalized, right? Like, there's not a specific movie or in mind or whatever. It's just a generic chase scene in a generic action movie. So,
and the cars look ridiculous.
And now you know why. Because the most notable change was that the trains could no longer resemble a Mini Cooper because they didn't have the license to it anymore.
It's so dumb. They still look like
I know they do, but they don't. So
they look awful.
The thing is the crazy thing is, so there's a whole list of everything that they had to do here. So one,
obviously the sign.
So obviously the sign, and all mentions of the Italian Job had to remove. That included the onboard audio because they played the sound. They played the soundtrack from the movie on the ride, and so that had to be removed.
And re-recorded.
Yes, yeah. So, because it does still have onboard audio from what I remember. It was a few years ago, so it's hard to remember, but I'm pretty sure it still does. Each train was now painted one color. They weren't able to do the blue and the red and the white, so now there's a blue train, a red train, and a white train. Copyright stuff. It's
seriously okay. That one's weird.
So,
that one's dumb.
To make the shells were too expensive to change, so that's why they still kind of have the same shape as a Mini Cooper. But to help make the change, make them different enough, they removed the headlights. The stripes were removed. The headlights are the part. The headlights are the part that really makes them not look good anymore. Like the fact that they don't have headlights anymore, it just looks like a cheap Hot Wheel now instead of an actual car.
It doesn't even look like a cheap Hot Wheel. It looks like a piece of Play-Doh. Can't you see it? Looks like someone just
really
put
does.
A piece of Play-Doh on it with wheels.
All one color and just slap some wheels on it. Yeah,
it's a blob.
The functioning doors were also removed. I don't know why they had to do that. That doesn't make sense to me, but they did for some reason. Yeah. So, because they don't have the actual doors on them anymore for some reason. The splashdown, I've got some mixed views on whether that was removed because it resembled the movie too much, or if they just didn't want to pay for it anymore. But because the splashdown, they don't have a splashdown anymore.
No.
And as far as I could tell when we went.
Because you pointed it out to me, even. I remember you pointing it out to me, and you're like, that was supposed to be a splashdown.
Well, and it's like, I don't know, it just looks kind of ugly because it's not a splashdown.
It does. It totally does.
It's just ugly concrete now. So the unfortunate byproduct of this whole situation is the rides have just kind of fallen into disrepair over time. Mostly because, like, I just think the parks don't really care as much as they used to. Like, when they were the Italian Job, like, it was so immersive and, like, it mimics the movie so well that, like, keeping all the special effects in good repair, like, helped with that theming and that immersive nature of the ride. But now, without the theming, it's just kind of generic, so now they don't care as much. And so Kings Islands is in decent shape, but both King's Dominion and Canada's Wonderland, like, only like a third of the effects still work. Like, it's not in great shape. And I mean, yeah,
do you think it would be replaced?
It's definitely a coaster that could be replaced without too many people complaining, I think. But you never know. So I don't know. It's interesting because it does fill a need of having a family coaster at all of the parks. Like, that's, especially because family coasters are becoming bigger and bigger. But again, it's like kind of towing that line between a thrill coaster and a family coaster is kind of like in the middle there. So
right.
I don't know. It's interesting. So now what? That was, 2007 they made these changes. So what if the three coasters been up to since then? Where are they now? No.
Okay.
Like
okay, we're getting more cheesy.
We're in the end credits now where like the so and so, went off to,
Nathan, what the heck?
Well, we're talking all about movies this week, so that's the kind of this is the end credit scene.
Okay, now we're getting more cheesy.
Hey, it's perfect theme for this.
Jeez, moving on. Continue.
So all three coasters are sufficiently popular at their respective parks due to being kind of like I mentioned earlier. It's like a stepping stone between the family coasters and the big thrill coasters. So Canada's Wonderland's coaster, this is the reason we're talking about them today. Canada's Wonderland's just turned 20 years old last week.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And then Kings Islands turns 20 in a few weeks.
Happy birthday.
Obviously, King's Dominions doesn't turn 20 until next year, but so that was the whole reason, was because this is the 20th anniversary of the Backlot Stunt Coasters, was kind of the inspiration for doing this episode today.
Cool.
Canada's Wonderland. Oh, I forgot the picture of the side-by-side of the trains before and after. So.
Again, Play-Doh on wheels.
It is unfortunate. So it looks like, I think they even removed the windshield too. It's just a bar now. I didn't even realize that before.
Yeah.
Why did they have to do that?
I don't know.
Some of the changes, I don't understand why they were necessary. So yeah, it is interesting. So who knows? So Canada's Wonderland is probably the most popular amongst the three, just because it's ranked the highest in their coaster lineup. It also still fits in well thematically with the surrounding rides, because it's in the action zone section of the park, which is just kind of a generic high thrill theme. So I think it just kind of works for that section of the park.
Bam theme.
Something like that. So King's Dominion's version of the ride is kind of having an identity crisis right now.
That's one way of putting it.
As is Flight of Fear, actually, too. Both of them are kind of in an awkward situation. Not only are the special effects falling into disrepair, but the coaster is located in the Jungle Expedition section of the park that was introduced in 2022. And so both Backlot Stunt Coaster and Flight of Fear don't fit in at all with the other coasters in that section of the park. Now, fortunately for Backlot Stunt Coaster, it's on the southwest edge of that section of the park, and it's kind of like behind some trees. So it's not like a sore thumb. Like it's not very obvious. It's actually closer to like the bumper cars and some of this other stuff over here. It's just you have to go into Jungle Expedition to get to the entrance of the ride. So that's the part that's a little bit odd. Flight of Fear is the one that's really it's in between Rapterra and Pantherian, and it's themed to an alien invasion. Like, I don't know what they're going to do with that. They're going to have to change it at some point.
Yeah, if they want to stay any kind of on theme.
Yeah, I think their focus this season was on Pantherian. I would not be surprised if next season we get a Flight of Fear retheme for King's Dominion. So
yeah.
So, and there's been rumors about them doing a retheme for Backlot Stunt Coaster too. Like, something you and I have talked about, I think during our King's Dominion trip report way back in season 1, is doing a theme of like turning the cars into little Jeeps instead.
That'd be cool.
And having it be like a safari theme ride. Like, I think that would be super cool.
Yeah.
So, I think that would fit in very
Safari gone wrong or something like that.
There's so many things that you could do, and just I think the little Jeeps would be
so
cute.
So cute. Oh my gosh.
You're
never gonna let me live it down.
Well, it's just an inside joke for the podcast now at this point. So
Great.
Now, Kings Island's version of the ride has probably held up the best over time, and I mean they keep putting money into it actually, and updating things and actually kind of keeping it refreshed. So it kind of has to as well, because it sits in a really prominent place in the park. It's kind of like right behind the Eiffel Tower, so it's pretty noticeable. It's right in the middle of the park.
Right.
So last year they actually painted some stripes on the train.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so they look a little better than the Play-Doh style that you've been assigning to King's Dominions and Canada's Wonderland. So I don't. The other thing that's interesting is like I don't know why they put the stripes on there. Like, I guess it was just. It
still doesn't look like a car.
No,
they tried.
It's fine. It's the headlights. The headlights.
Yeah.
I just realized they had to take the taillights off too.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Again, Play-Doh with stripes.
Man, there must have been some real legal implications with BMW after this all went down, that they're like, no, you have to remove the headlights.
Everything. Strip it.
Man.
Strip it.
Now, this episode was planned before this announcement happened, but just a couple weeks ago, Kings Island actually announced that for the 20th anniversary of the coaster, they would be renaming and retheming their Backlot Stunt Coaster.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, this is brand new, just within the past couple weeks. They are renaming it and retheming it to Queen City Stunt Coaster, which Queen City is a nickname for Cincinnati, which is the metropolitan area that Kings Island is located in. So there's not like a lot that's changing. It's more just obviously the logo, and they repainted the billboard section. But it's still like themed to an action movie, but they like changed all the signs to have like major cities or major street signs from Cincinnati, and like the billboards now feature like Cincinnati major landmarks and different things. So
I like it.
Kind of it's basically the same coaster, same theme, but they're bringing it closer to home a little bit. Instead of themed to Los Angeles, it's now themed to Cincinnati, which I like.
Yeah,
so nice,
I like that.
Gives the coaster its own personality that's kind of separate from the other two, which I think is a nice touch. So while Backlot Stunt Coaster might not blow anyone away today, at the time it really showed what was possible for regional parks. It brought in theming and effects and onboard audio that you didn't see it outside of Disney or Universal at the time. And so even though it's lost a bit of that magic with the, losing the Italian job theming, it still represents a moment in coaster history when regional parks took a big creative swing. So, and that is the history of Backlot Stunt Coaster at King's Dominion and Canada's Wonderland, and now Queen City Stunt Coaster at Kings Island.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Not cute. Cool.
Not cute. Cool. Yeah, we're cool here.
Okay, we're quitting that.
Also very cheesy, if you haven't noticed. So.
Okay. This episode. This episode is something.
Hey, we were just reverting back to our 2005 selves.
What grade were we?
We've been 9.
Really?
Yeah, we've been 9 years old in 2005.
Throwback.
Yeah.
Oh, I do not want to look at my 9-year-old pictures even. No, thank you. It's like a big old dog.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. I'm trying to remember what our next episode is. Oh, I remember. We're going back to Hershey Park for our next episode. One of our favorites. So we've been doing a lot of Cedar Fair to start the season. Hershey. So it's nice that we'll finally get out of the Cedar Fair stuff and do something a little different. So
yeah.
But so we're looking forward to Hershey Park, one of our favorite parks, in a couple weeks. If you like that episode, be sure to give us a 5-star review on whatever platform you might be listening.
Not 4, 5.
It's not for our egos. Maybe for Haley's ego, but it's not for the...
Hey!
You say that every time. You're like,
That's
it's
true.
a little bit for our ego. It really is just to help people find the podcast in the future. And you can also follow us on our socials. We're on Instagram and on Twitter/X. Our handle is @airtimetraveler for both of those. And be sure to keep tuning in. We got episodes every second and fourth Thursday. I don't remember. No, first and third Thursday. I'm not even remembering right. Every first and third Thursdays when these episodes come out. So be sure to keep an eye on that. And
no, second and fourth.
Is it? No, wait.
It's the second.
Oh, it is second and fourth.
Honey,
I forgot the 1st of May was a Thursday, so the 8th, it would be the second.
Because this Saturday is my
it's your
which is second Saturdays.
Yeah. Well, you can't have a second Saturday, not the same week as the second Thursday, but in this case, it is. So
okay.
It is second and fourth Thursday. Thank you for correcting me. So
you're welcome.
Second and fourth Thursday is when the podcast releases. So anything else from the GP?
Nope.
You talk about a cute, cool, and cheesy coaster.
Oh, for the love of Pete. We're ending. Wrap it up.
Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in the next one.